Oh, hey, is it going or not?
It's going.
Oh, just
Yep.
hope you didn't talk bad about
Yep.
them before. Cool, Steve. Hey, so what is Tū Manawa and how can it support schools?
All right, Mark. So Tū Manawa is a Sport New Zealand fund that we're lucky enough to get down here in Southland, across New Zealand, I guess, to help really activate opportunities for tamariki and rangatahi and whānau to be active. Obviously, schools are massive settings for where tamariki are, and what we want to see Tū Manawa do is actually support schools, to come up with different ways of getting their tamariki active, how they can use Tū Manawa to support kaiako and coming up with ideas, because mate, there's heaps of good ideas out there, and we just want to be able to support those schools to be able to enable that to happen. And I think we were just talking about this, saying people find it really, really difficult to make the time to access it or things like that. But I think the opportunity is you can really bring some ideas to life around thinking outside the box, giving things a crack, and having a bit of fun. So it's not about being afraid of the process, it's about actually being excited about what you could do with it to really see some happy, healthy kids being really active.
Cool. So you talked about ideas. What are some ideas? So I'm a teacher and I'm thinking, oh, this sounds really good. There's money available for me as a school. What are some ideas for Tū Manawa?
Oh, I think, ideas are limitless, really. I think a lot of it comes from when teachers actually just out in playgrounds and things and seeing things and going, why aren't those kids being active and why not? And actually asking questions of tamariki, like actually engaging them in the process. And you can see through some of the other applications we've had from schools as well, such as Ascot, I guess, community school. And maybe there's things as simple as these kids just haven't even experienced the sport. They don't even know what it is. So how do you bring in an experience for a sport to come in and actually the kids can join in and play that. So there's some really simple things, but you can think about options around technology. How do we start using technology and getting kids active? And I think that's where the possibilities are limitless. And I think what we're trying to say with Tū Manawa is come in with some ideas, with some good understanding of why we want to do it, but then have a crack. And if things don't work out, well, that's okay. You're going to be learning as you go, and eventually you'll figure it out, and we'll be there to support you with that as well, because things just don't happen overnight. So we want people to do things that are different. We want people to do things that, hey, this is something we want to give a crack. So yeah.
And so could we, trying to think of an idea, could we go ask a tamariki? Would that be important?
Oh mate, 100%. In fact, that's the one thing really that we want people to do, because I think we've said this before. We're both ex-teachers, right? We're both teachers. And you have ideas, and sometimes you get so driven on an idea, you get a bit, kind of down a garden path. But when you talk to the young people, tamariki, they really start to shape it for you. And if they're your consumers, right? So if you got them happy, then your project's likely going to work. So understanding your young people is critical, because it makes your job easy. Help shape things for you. Yeah, and they've got some good ideas. It's their world, not ours. Yeah.
Cool. So we're sitting here, me and you, we're at Active Southland, talking about this amazing fund. So how could Active Southland support a school in applying for Tū Manawa?
Well, I think there's probably two parts of that. Is the school's got to have a motivation to understand the benefits of physical activity towards tamariki wellbeing. And I think, as we've discussed previously, tamariki wellbeing equals better engagement in the classroom, and hopefully translates into better attendance, because kids come to school when they've got something to look forward to, a lot of stuff. So I think there's that part of it when the school's really motivated, but then it's how you use people like our health active learning workforce, and also get in touch with us, because I think the best applications we've done is someone's come with an idea, right? And it's kind of doesn't quite fit the brief, and you can see they're really passionate, and you just got to work with them in shaping it. And often we come up with just such better outcomes, and it makes their life easier, because people come up with these massive ideas. It's kind of just skimming them down a bit, making them attainable, making them feel success, and and I think that's what we can do with our workforce, because we've got a bit of knowledge in both of those worlds, and it's just enabling them guys to actually not get in too deep over their heads, but also manage things and gradually scaffold them as well.
Cool. So no idea is a stupid idea. If you've
No
got
idea
no
is a stupid idea.
get a hold of Active Southland before you go and do all the work. Come and talk to us about if it's a really good idea to support a Tū Manawa fund.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think we've got some schools that are really, really good at it, and once you've done one or two, then all of a sudden the floodgates open and you're starting to see ideas and you're starting to see this and that, because you don't have to only put one application in, you can put multiple applications in for multiple ideas, and that's the I think that's the exciting part, because today's world, there's so many different opportunities but so many different challenges, so we're going to look for multiple solutions. So we always encourage people to, hey, that's another great idea, chuck something in, let's see how we can do with it.
Cool. So you're a bit of a Tū Manawa expert, so what would you say for a school is the key to a really successful application?
Probably the critical things, as we touched on before, was understanding what your students need. Also understanding the barriers and how you're going to overcome them, and understanding your own capacity to be able to do it, because as I said, sometimes we're going 100 miles an hour, and so it's really pulling back and then really understanding the whole thing. But the student insight is critical, because if you're giving them what they want, well, you're onto a winner, because I think we've all seen applications where, why isn't it working? Great idea, didn't come from the kids. So yeah, they have the right intentions, but it just doesn't pull it off, because you don't have to horse it.
Right, Steve, the big question that schools want to know is how much can we get out of you for a Tū Manawa application?
Great question, Mark. And it's probably the wrong way to think about it in some ways. So I think it's really about the purpose of the project is, and it could be $500 to get it rolling, it could be $10,000, it could be up to $20,000. But I think that the key thing is work out really what you want to do, work out the impact of it and really what you're trying to achieve, and then the money looks after itself. And I know it sounds a bit odd in some ways, but it's when people come in saying how much can we get, they're the projects that probably aren't as successful as the people that come in and go, hey, I've got this idea and I want to achieve this and this and this, and then we can help structure what that investment looks like. And so I don't know if you get in trouble for saying this, but it's not really about the money. The money will kind of serve the project to what it needs, and also probably not trying to put heat on people that are putting in applications thinking, oh, I've got to get as much as I can. Puts more pressure on people when they've got accountability, I guess, around that. So, you might say, hey, we want to try a small activation out, you may want $1,000. And then you say, hey, I learned this from it. You come back to the next round and you go, can I get 6,000 because now I want to do this, and then you can start building it. So it just means people start to really not think about achieving home runs in the first round and trying to actually scaffold things up a little bit.
Yeah, nice. Awesome. So what would you say would be some of the big barriers that we're seeing for schools at the moment for actually just putting in an application? And then how do we overcome those barriers for schools?
Oh, I think everybody's freaked out with funding applications. And we try to make the funding applications as easy as possible, but that's not always the case in the real world. We've still got to undergo certain things, but that'll be the biggest probably barrier, I think, is people look at it and go, oh, this is a lot of work, but it's not really. And I think that's where you reach out to Active Southland, but also your Health Active Learning facilitators and say, hey, look, I've got this idea and we can whip through things pretty quick, and it doesn't have to be all wordy and everything. It's just about clear purpose, good people driving it, that have real good intent around supporting wellbeing for tamariki through physical activity. And I think that's the thing, we can really walk people through it, because we want to get the money out the door to good things as well. So it's good for our outcomes and what we want to achieve with Active Southland. So yeah, that's probably what I'd see as the biggest barrier. But once you've done it once, you actually figure out, oh, this isn't too bad after all. Yeah. So
success for you would be flooding in of applications after schools hear this?
Yeah, for sure. We want as many tamariki as possible to get opportunities to be active, you know, and active in ways which meets their needs, you know, not our needs. It's all different now, right? So it's what we can do to, you know, stimulate more opportunities for tamariki, working in partnership with schools, and then getting the schools excited about, oh, this is really neat, you know, getting them excited about it as well. And what can we do next, until you've got multiple teachers saying, hey, we're keen to try something else out, you know. And we can't fund everything, but you think if everybody's doing all this really cool stuff, how much influence can we have around physical activity in schools being a real primary driver, you know. That's what excites me, really, around really showing how important it is that kids come to school, they're active, they're happy. Yeah.
Right, Steve, can you give me an example of a school who's just absolutely knocked an application out of the park?
Yeah, mate. Well, I think we get quite a few from primary schools, and probably one that comes to mind recently is possibly New Rivers. That is a combination of schools that are actually coming together and getting access into the stadium, and working with a bunch of sport providers to give these tamariki an actual opportunity to experience some of the sports they may not get to access, but also access to a facility that often many of them find inaccessible through, you know, means of transport or affordability. So it's quite simple in many respects, but it's actually a good application because it's, you know, they've identified a need, and whānau, through I think the consultation, identified we wanted our kids doing more sport, but we actually don't know how to access it. So some of the basic things really that come in, you think looks basic, but it's actually quite deep around what they can actually achieve. And also it's working with sport providers, so it actually helps educate them as well around who are we missing and why are we missing them out. So that's a pretty good application. I think we mentioned before our Kiarahi as well, through Woodland School, supporting the application that actually I think serviced 8 schools in the end around not only access to Kiarahi kits and things, but building permanent fields. So I think it's a really good indicator that you can work in partnership with other schools to do this as well. And it's probably a really cool thing when you do that. Like, we see that and go, well, these people are switched on, you know. But yeah, it can be within your own school as well.
And you use that word consultation, so schools have to do a health and PE consultation every couple of years, and they get voice from obviously tamariki as well as whānau.
Yep.
So it'd be a great opportunity to be able to use that voice that they've already got, then see what that community or the tamariki are keen to have.
Yeah, massive. And you know, I think a really cool thing around Tū Manawa is you can involve whānau. So we all know that you know, when you've got an active parent, that your kid's going to be more active. So how do we engage whānau in that? Because you're so right, if you've got the school engaging with whānau, and the whānau engaged heavily in the school, your school's going to be such a more vibrant place. You're going to have way more volunteers, people to help out. So, you know, how do you use Tū Manawa, I guess, in terms of saying, oh, this is what the tamariki want, but how do we include whānau in this as well? And that can be things like even just having evenings and putting on kai and having some simple games, simple things like that, just start to build an environment where people say, hey, I want to go to the school and I want to help out because I actually have something to give back here as well, and I feel included and valued. So I think that just shows you the scope as well of where you can go with Tū Manawa. But yeah, the consultations is a great place for insight. Man, awesome idea.
It's endless, isn't it? They've just got to have an idea and then give it a crack.
That's pretty much it, man.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.